Shabbat Shalom. Oh. Always feeling they were different from other boys, a young Israeli boy of Yemenite descent, born in Petah Tikva in 1969, decided at the age of 8 to become a singer. This inspiration was born from the Eurovision Song Contest, an international song competition around since the 1950s, known for its catchy songs and campy queer energy. The contest made famous the likes of ABBA or Celine Dion, and Israel has been included and won a number of times. Most recently, in 2018, Neda Barzilai won with the song Toy. Now, this young boy from a working-class Mizrahi family came out as transgender in 1982 and changed her name to Sharon Cohen. First, performing as a drag queen around Israel, she began to be recognized in the early 90s for her music. And in 1998, she was selected to represent Israel in the contest. Now, going by the stage name of Dana International, she won the competition, becoming the first trans singer to win Eurovision and making waves as a trans singer in Israel and around the world. So as is the Eurovision tradition, the next year, in 1999, Israel hosted the contest in Jerusalem. And every year, the previous winner performs while the New Year's finals and votes are being tallied up. So performing outside the gates of the old city, Dana International performed a mashup, a cover of a Stevie Wonder song, Free, mixed up with a Mizrahi melody to the Shabbat song, Dror Yikra. As you can imagine, there were many who were not happy. They were not happy about the use of this song, a piyut written in 960 Cordoba and based in part on our Parashat this week. Free like the river floating free through infinity. Free to be sure of what I am and who I need to be. Free from all worries. Worries prey on oneself's troubled mind. Freer than the clock hands ticking away the time. Freer than the meaning of free that man defines. Ah, I am free. Dror yikra levein imbat. Venin sarchem kamo vavat. He will proclaim freedom to all, and he'll keep you as an apple of his eye. Now, this was a groundbreaking moment in Israel, and while many were not happy, Dana International showed the world that she was finally free, without the confines of the past or angry voices around her putting up boundaries. And she soared as a Mizrahi Jew, as a trans woman. And for many, she showed the world the potential for what Israel and Judaism could be. In some ways, I wish we could go back to those times. I wish we could experience the freedom and Israeli pride Dana International felt and the world saw in that moment. So I went back to the biblical root of Dror Yikra to understand what the idea of freedom presented here might offer us at this moment in our lives. Parashat Behar picks up back on Mount Sinai, where the Israelites experienced their ultimate face-to-face communal encounter with God. And here, at the mountain, God tells Moses about the communal responsibilities the Israelites have through their management and use of the land. Parashat Behar recounts the commands for the fields of Israel to remain fallow for a sabbatical year every 7 years, a Shanat Shabbaton, or year of complete rest. Then God tells Moshe to observe Yovel, or the Jubilee, every 50th year, and the sound of the shofar would commence this period. During the 50th year, the Israelites would not only refrain from sowing or reaping their fields like during the Shemitah year, but also return all of their possessions including your laborers and their entire families. All debts are rescinded, and everyone will be returned to their ancestral homeland for a reset. It's a moment when everyone in society starts over again. And the actions, the physical actions I listed, create a blank slate for everyone. And based on the text, these actions also set up a unique spiritual state of freedom. The text reads, Ukratem dror ba'aretz lechol yoshveha. You shall proclaim dror throughout the land for all its inhabitants for the Jubilee. Dror could be translated as freedom or liberty, and a common translation of this word is release. But it's an unusual word and only appears in the Torah twice. Martin Buber calls it a rare and dear word. And while the Jubilee itself is not practiced today, how might we understand dror in relation to the real and imaginary constraints that bind us? Now, the rabbis in the Talmud were also curious about this word. And Rabbi Yehuda asks, Ma lashon dror, what is the meaning of this word? His answer, essentially, someone who is midayer can move around and do business wherever they want. That sense of freedom, to have freedom of movement, let's say, is one of the reasons among many that this pasuk is on the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, as Felicia spoke about last night, as a declaration of our freedom here in America. And Rashi adds to this that the dror is a freedom where you are not under dominion of others. So what sort of freedom do we feel when there are no outside forces with dominion over us? You might say there are always forces ruling over us. Maybe the need to make money, let's say, the laws of a country or a society. And we don't have the luxury of a jubilee to just be. There are also other forces that take hold of us that we might not think of. What about fear or insecurity or anxiety? What about fitting in to societal norms? Now, while these emotions are different from a master yielding control over our movement, I know for me they certainly can feel constricting. In Proverbs, the word dror doesn't mean freedom at all, but rather it refers to a swallow bird. According to Ibn Ezra, this bird produces music when it is free. However, if it is taken captive by people, the bird refuses to eat and starves itself to death. I wonder if Donna International knew of Ibn Ezra's commentary when she sang Dror Yikra in Jerusalem so freely. Maybe that's why she did it. Became an international champion for the freedom she expressed. But watching these birds on YouTube, I could see a special energy in their call. It was quick and fast, frequent, unrestrained, and there was a joy in the call. Ibn Ezra's take on the word dror, that it's a freedom only felt outside a cage, is the freedom, I think, that we hear in the call. I know when singing, in voice lessons I've had, the best sound comes from us when we're completely open and relaxed and safe. The second we feel pressure or restraint, there's a tightness, and you can hear it in our voices. The dror of the Jubilee is then like a bird's song, natural, open, flowing, liberating our bodies and our souls. Now, I strive for this freedom, but it's tough to feel. It's tough for all of us to feel. In order to sometimes taste this free way, taste this freedom, we need to practice, stretch, do physical activities to get us to the openness, maybe in a ritual sort of way, similar to the commands on society during the Jubilee. But the physical actions of the Jubilee are part of a practice to achieve this ideal dror state of being. So releasing the physical constraints leads us to a path where we're confronted then with spiritual constraints we have on our lives. In reality, as I mentioned, most of the boundaries that limit our thinking and dreaming are imaginary or self-imposed. These are the shoulds or supposed tos. You aren't supposed to think this way because that's not how you climb the corporate ladder. You aren't supposed to break the norms of society because that's not how it's done. There's no chance for peace or a humane way out of the conflict in the Middle East because of all that's happened between the Israelis and Palestinians. This type of thinking limits us from a real freedom of thought or creativity and dreaming of a brighter future. And in a drawer freedom, we find a way to release these mental constraints too. Here in Parashat Behar, our Torah is illustrating a series of steps the society is commanded to take to reach this freedom. The Israelites can practice this release, and maybe have a taste of it every week with Shabbat, and a taste of it every 7 years with Shemitah, and only then they are able to understand what reaching drawer is with the Jubilee. So you might be wondering, without these practices, maybe Shabbat, some versions of Shemitah, how can we bring drawer into our lives on a daily basis? And this, I believe, is where we find the Torah of Behar. Nechama Leibowitz notes that twice in the parasha, God cites what might be a reason for this full release and freedom. God calls the Israelites my servants, and Leibowitz writes that in the Jubilee year, the servant is compelled to go free and serve God. He is free from human bondage that he might submit to the yoke of heaven alone, she writes. By the release of responsibility, the Israelites get rid of any subservience to making money or managing people or even having enough food, and their only goal is to serve God. I often turn to my teacher, Yiska Smith, who thankfully is returning to BJ in a few weeks to teach her Torah to us. And she offers wise Torah on this parasha. She teaches that the way to serve God is learning to let go. Letting go. Letting go takes tremendous courage. How do we let go of fear or the supposed tos? How do we let go when our society is filled with norms? How do we let go of the tightness physically or mentally? Yet letting go, she writes, is how we achieve the state of drawer. Letting go can give us a more tranquil heart, she believes. How might our lives look differently if we built in moments to let go? How might we physically, mentally, and spiritually approach life if we were able to let go of what constrains us? How might our society address our problems if we found moments to let go and allow the situation to be viewed with clear, fresh eyes? Maybe the way for us to find more ways to serve God is by letting go. And that's what Nechama Leibowitz is teaching us about the Jubilee and Yiska Smith. So I mentioned toward the beginning that the word drawer is used one other time in the Tanakh. The other usage is in Exodus when talking about the ketoret, or an incense sacrificial offering in the Mishkan. More drawer, which means flowing myrrh. So I had to look up what myrrh is. Maybe you know, but Wikipedia told me that myrrh is a gum resin extracted from a few small thorny trees. But really the important piece of this idea of myrrh is that in Exodus, it's the oil used to anoint the high priest and all the vessels in our most sacred space in the Mishkan. Drawer is then both freedom, a feeling of freedom, and it's the oil that grants holiness to manage and facilitate the Israelites' relationship with God in the Mishkan. The ability to bring drawer to the earth is ultimately then the way to be nearer to God. Through the spiritual practice of letting go, we can experience the Torah of drawer and change how we approach the challenges we face as individuals and a community, all while being drawn closer to God. So let's go back to Eurovision. This year, Israel's singer, Eden Golan, faced a lot of barriers. She was confined to her hotel room when she wasn't on stage because protesters were hounding the hotel. The world media and other singers were out to get her. When she spoke in press conferences, other singers covered their heads. They pretended like they were sleeping. When she moved around backstage, people blatantly wouldn't look at her and ignored her. But worst of all, during her performance in the finals, the entire arena was filled with boos and chants. Eurovision even piped in crowd cheering so the audience at home wouldn't hear what was happening in the audience. Now, she could have turned away. She could have used the world's hate to dampen her. However, Golan went out there. She held her head high, and from my perspective, she let go. Her voice soared as she sang Hurricane, a song about grief and holding out hope after October 7th. It was a stunning performance, one of the best. And in the finals, the jury gave her almost 0 points. It was devastating to watch. However, in Eurovision, the finals are tallied from a jury vote and a popular vote. And the world, watching her freedom, must have seen something else. Because Israel, out of 25-ish countries in the finals, Israel came in second place in the audience popular vote. And Golan was the highest vote getter in nearly half of the voting countries around Europe and the world. She ended in 5th place in the contest. But most of all, there are countless accounts, you can even see now that she's back in Israel, about her ability to let go and sing, to feel a state of dror, of freedom, and how she's inspired Israelis and many around the world. How can we find this sense of dror? How can we be released from the barriers, the constraints that bind us? Dror is found, like Donna International or Eden Golan, when we release societal pressures to be our own full, open selves. In the days ahead, may we hear that sound of the shofar that allows us to release all that we're grasping onto. And may that release bring the freedom our lives and our world desperately needs to create a world we can't even dream of yet. Shabbat Shalom.